Hello besties, it's Kira. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video, we're going to be doing my June wrap-up. Can't believe it's already time for that. I mean, it's already July. It's July 1st when I'm filming this, which is just a little bit terrifying. Basically, if you don't know how these videos work, I'm going to be telling you guys all the books that I read in the month of June, rating, thoughts, all stuff like that. If you guys enjoy, make sure to follow all my socials down below, along with my Goodreads, Amazon wishlist, stuff like that will be linked down there if you want to check it out. Like, comment, and subscribe for more videos by me. And let's just get right into it. I didn't mention this, but I think I read 7 books in the month of June. I honestly could have read a lot more, but like middle up to the end of the month, I just got super busy and didn't read as much, which I find happens very often. I started off the month with Hopeless by Elsie Silver. This is the 5th and final book in the Chestnut Springs series, which if you don't know is a small town cowboy romance series, which I love. It's definitely a 5-star series, like overall for me, just like the vibes. It's about Bo and Bailey. Bo is one of the Eaton brothers. He was in the army or the Marines or the military, something along those lines, and then something like really traumatic happened and he had to come back to Chestnut Springs. Bailey is a bartender who has been living in Chestnut Springs all her life. Her family's not really like respected necessarily in Chestnut Springs just because of the stuff that her brothers and father have done. It's age gap. It's a marriage of convenience or fake marriage. I just overall wasn't that excited. I just didn't care necessarily about these two characters. Like, they weren't my favorite characters in the series. I felt like it talked a lot about how Bailey was a virgin and Bo can't take her virginity because he's so much older, this, and that, but then they would still like do stuff. I rated it a 3.75. Overall, I think it was just the vibes of being back in the town, seeing the other characters in the series. And it just wasn't my favorite characters, but again, love the vibes. Definitely recommend the series. 3.75 out of 5 stars. So the second book that I read this month was The Way I Am Now by Amber Smith. This is the kind of companion novel to The Way I Used to Be. Definitely check trigger warnings for this series. It's very, very deep and heavy. I can't really talk much about this second book if you haven't read the first book, and I don't want to possibly trigger anybody with talking about the topics that this series is kind of about. But I think her name's Eden. That could be wrong. It's like her in high school, and then this novel is kind of like her going into college, and there's a romance in here between her and a character. It was okay. What I remember from reading this is that I wanted more about a certain topic that we just didn't get. What I'll say is like there's a case. I wanted more on the criminal case and how everything was working out with that, rather than the romance. Just gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. All right, these next 3, I'm pretty sure I read for a video. I think I was reading romance books for a week. Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. This is a accidental pregnancy book, which I'm not the biggest fan of, if I'm being honest. I just don't like it. I ended up giving this a 3 to 5 stars. I honestly could have bumped it down to a 2. I have not thought about this book at all, and I didn't really enjoy my time. It was just like I felt like I was pregnant. Like, that's pretty much all it was. It was just her going through this pregnancy, which there's nothing wrong with that. I was expecting some romance. The male main character who she's supposed to fall in love with, we got like a couple scenes with them, and then they like fell in love and were together. There's no problem with that because they were friends growing up, so we didn't see that kind of relationship develop, so it kind of feels quick with like, to them, they've known each other a very long time. I just didn't feel the connection between them, but I did like the male main character and the things that he did. I wish we got more of him, more of them falling in love and doing this process together. 3 out of 5 stars. Next book I read for that video was Springtide by Kai Stevens. This is my first book by Kai Stevens. This book is about Harper. I already forgot his name. Luca? It might be Luca. I could have just made that name up. Basically, Harper has a crush on a baseball player, and she's a like personal trainer, or she's gonna be some kind of like personal trainer, and she ends up getting picked for the football team. But she doesn't want to do that. She wants to be with the baseball team so she can talk more to this guy. In order to do that, she like told her professor that she's dating a football player, so she can't work with the football team. So she gets switched over, And the football player that she happens to mention is Luca, or whatever his name is. Luca, he has this like injury that he doesn't want anybody to know about. So like a deal, I'll fake date you if you help me recover from this injury without having to like tell anybody. Keep it on the DL. It's fake dating, it's college, a little bit of a sports romance, gives great beachy vibes. I give this 4 to 5 stars. I really enjoyed myself. It was so easy to get through. I loved that Luca and Harper were like literally complete opposites. Like she was very bubbly, sunshine, and Luca was very just like quiet, reserved. Definitely want to continue the series. I think the second one is a hockey romance, which obviously I'm going to read. 4 out of 5 stars. Alright guys, next book is actually a reread, which I've only reread, I think, a total of 3 books, counting this one, since I started my reading journey. Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan, one of my favorite books of all time. Gave it a 5 stars. First time I read it, this time around, another 5-star. I love these characters so freaking much. I talked about it in the video, but I just loved being back with these characters. Basically, if you don't know what this book is about, I like to say this, but I don't go into too much detail with this book specifically. When you pick it up, you kind of learn as you go. Long story short, Bree is going through some things, so she ends up going on a little road trip to this town. While she's here, she runs into Archer, and their encounter at first is like a little weird, then they go their separate ways. She ends up asking like around the town, like, oh my god, I ran into this guy, blah blah blah, and they're like, oh yeah, that's Archer. He doesn't speak. Hasn't spoken to anybody in many years. It's just their love story, and I love Archer so much. I just love him. Like, he is top tier book boyfriend for me. Like, so sweet, and I would just like die for him. Like, their connection is so sweet and genuine. You guys just need to read it. You just need to read it and experience it for yourself. 5 stars. Alright, so next book I picked up is actually a fantasy, and at this point I just did that whole like reading romance for a week vlog, and I actually don't remember the last fantasy book that I picked up. I was just in the mood for a fantasy, so I decided to pick this up. It was a new release, I think in like the end of May. Spelled by Laura Thalahassa. This is the second book in the Bewitched series. The first book, to quickly sum it up, is about this witch named Celine, and every time that she uses her magic, she loses a memory, which really intrigued me. At some point, she ends up waking up this spirit who's been asleep for a very long time. He wakes up and claims that she is his long lost wife or dead wife or something along those lines. And it's just like, then going through that, this is the second book. It's a continuation. Won't get obviously into the plot because it's the second book, but golly, this was also a whole ride. Like, it was crazy. I wish the man groveled a little bit more, because at the ending of that book, I was like, this man's he's gotta grovel. And I felt like there was some in this book, but I wanted more for it being this freaking long. I felt like the romance and the plot was balanced pretty well. I did want a little bit more of the other side of the plot, but a little bit of like a crime or something. I wanted more about the crime stuff. I definitely recommend picking up this series. I know she has a couple other series, maybe like 2 or 3. I might want to try to pick up one of her other series. I'm terrified and excited to see how the last book ends up wrapping up. Give it a 4 to 5 stars. And the last and final book that I read in the month of June, guys, I read 300 pages of this book in one day. When I say that this author's writing style is so easy to get through, this is what I mean. Love Redesign by Lauren Asher. I think I tried to pick up this book last month, and I put it down like maybe 10 pages in because it just like wasn't what I was feeling in that moment. This is the first book in her new series, the Lakefront Billionaire series. It's another billionaire romance series, I think. Why would she call it Lakefront Billionaires if they weren't all billionaires? Sorry if the lighting and angle changed. I had to pause for a second. Basically, this book is about Julian and Dahlia. It takes place in Lake Wisteria, where They both grew up, they were childhood rivals, and it's funny because like their moms are best friends, so they had to like get along. Julian lives here, he's a billionaire, he owns like a construction kind of company, and Dahlia is coming back to this small town because she recently broke off her engagement, coming back just to try to put her life back together, and she runs into Julian, obviously. And it's just like they're rekindling. Julian ends up being like, oh, do you want to work on this house with me? So they end up doing like a little renovation project together. What's fun is that they actually like pull pranks on each other throughout this whole book, which at the beginning, I felt like their interactions and their banter just felt like a little immature and childish to me. And I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to vibe with this. There's a lot of deeper topics in this book. I ended up like really enjoying Julian's character. I liked Dahlia. I felt like at some points I was like, what are you doing? I just like felt his deep connection and love for Dahlia. And it took me a little while to get on Dahlia's side because of how much she was just like denying everything, where he was just like handing his heart to her. I'm like, give the poor man a chance. Oh my god. So excited to read the second book because I think it's about one of the characters we meet in this book and the nanny. Like, stop. We're getting single dad nanny trope billionaires. 4 out of 5 stars. Alright guys, that is all that I read in the month of June. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to follow all my socials down below along with my Goodreads, my Amazon wishlist. All that stuff will be linked down there if you want to check it out. Like, comment, and subscribe for more videos by me. And I will see you guys next week for another video. Bye!